Hi everyone, it's that time again for another episode of Grassroots Racer. It's been a great weekend as I competed in the third Twilight event for the Bendigo Car Club. So I've done three. The first time I went out there was my first ever rally. I remember that. The second time I went there was last year for the Twilight event, and I won it. So I was very happy with that. But this weekend we had a huge field of juniors. We had 11 juniors, which is massive for us. And we had more ladies competing after they had an event at the sale yards not too long ago. So it felt pretty good, and my Subaru seemed to be doing me well. So I ended up second in the junior category, and I was really happy with that. Again, shout out to Igor Kaya for the use of the trailer, and of course, Mum for taking me there. Couldn't do it without you. But tonight, on to tonight's guest, who also started his motorsport journey doing Carnacross, Autocross, and Motocana before progressing into the under 2 litre category where he currently races a Renault Clio. He is super passionate about motorsport and has worked hard to build up his cars, sponsors, and keep doing what he loves. So to find out more, I welcome Damien Hunter to the show. Hi, Damien. Thanks for joining me tonight. What inspired you to start racing and how did you get started?
Yeah, g'day, Ayrton. Thanks for having me here, mate. So it all started back in 2003. My father, he worked for a man by the name of Keith Linnell. He's a very well-known sports sedan racer, been around for many decades. Keith Linnell has raced sports sedans for many years. And so Keith was asking his workers if they could go and help him out on the weekends to pick crew for him, and Dad dragged me along, and that was where my love for motor racing really started, and here I was helping Keith filling his car up with race fuel on the weekends and whatnot, and I just loved it, absolutely loved it. And then after that, it was about a year later, so probably 2004. One of Dad's really good friends, who's actually the father of a very successful Australian motor racer, David Rowe. He's over in the UK now. Has raced at Pikes Peak, raced an Evo over there, and he now has an Audi Quattro. So he had a little Ford Laser. Started Ford 4 Car Club, did motorcanas, sprints, and whatnot, and that's pretty much where I started. It was quite successful in juniors in motorcanas and carnacrosses and autocrosses, and then I think I was about 15 years old, and I left school early, and had a full time job, and bought a little Gemini that I did circuit sprints in, and that's pretty much where I started.
So obviously you got into motorsport through family, and obviously you love it with a passion. You got bitten by the racing bug. So lucky for you, probably unlucky for your wallet, but you got into racing through your parents and your father mostly. And it's one thing, once you get hooked on, it's hard to just leave it. You know what I mean? Racing is something that sticks with you and it's in your heart. So you're bitten by the racing bug, and the first time you jumped in a race car, what did you feel like?
I loved it. The first time I jumped in a car, it was more about learning something new. I was just a kid, I'd gone from riding push bikes to school to jumping in a car and learning how to change gears and whatnot. And the rest is history, really. And then once you learn how to drive a car, and then the competition part, the competitiveness, like that, it's kind of like a drug, mate. Once you get a taste of that, there's no going back.
Yeah, definitely. I remember my first experience. I was in a hire cart, so it was like a double cart. So I was in, little 3-year-old me was in the cart. Mum was next to me, and I was hooked on there at a local track. So I think I don't remember, but my parents said until I was 7 years old, I used to nag him all the time for a go-kart. So
that's awesome.
I obviously don't remember until I got the go-kart. Otherwise, it's pretty blank.
100%. Yeah.
But what was the first category? Obviously, you told us you did motorcarnas and carnacrosses, but when you went to the road, what was the first category you jumped in, and what was the car?
So from carnacrosses, autocrosses, and and whatnot. Obviously, I started my sort of circuit driving in doing just club sprints and racing myself. And they all say you can't race people at sprints, but we all know well,
Yeah,
once you get. But after that, like I won the Australian the Australian Sprint Series at Phillip Island, and after that, I was like, well, I've done probably the best I could with that, and I bought a under 2 litre sport sedan from a guy named Shane Brown. It was a little Datsun Stanza. It was pretty successful back when Shane had it, and and like my obviously growing up and loving sports sedans, like that was what I could afford at the time, and so I bought that car, and I drove it, doing circuit sprints and just learning the car. So and ideally prepare myself to go circuit racing. Unfortunately, like buying a secondhand race car is it's pretty worn out, and and I wasn't in a position to afford to rebuild it, so to speak. So that car sat around and whatnot, and eventually, after I think it was like 3 or 4 years, I got the car up and running again, and I went and did Super TT. Like, and my at that time that was all I could afford. Just doing double SA stuff, and with budget races, and like that's where I started. And I put a turbo motor in it and all that kind of stuff. It's never really went anywhere. It was super unreliable, and I sort of kind of gave up on it for a while, and until a good mate of mine, he built this Clio up because he wanted to do circuit sprints and just do drive days and enjoy himself. And he went on a sort of like a gap year kind of thing, and he had this Clio, and he's like, I need to get rid of it. I know you'll do something with it. I know you like racing, and here you go. Here's the Clio, and that's sort of where the Clio adventure started. Which is pretty cool.
So your Clio is pretty cool. Obviously you've built it up over many, many years. Do you think potentially there was one point there where you were thinking about researching a bit more and doing a bit of R&D and maybe running it in improved production? Because I've seen a few cars like I had a guy on here called Carl Jensen. He got a Peugeot, and it was under 2 litre, and he virtually made it into an improved production car, and it flies.
Yeah, no, I've never. I love the freedom of sport sedans, and it's just like it's the rules are pretty slim, and it suits what I do. Like I love tinkering with cars. Like I think with and no disrespect to improved production or anything, like you're set to pretty like strict rules and what you can do. Like I could go out in the garage right now and cut my car in half, and like build a bit of a space frame and go racing next weekend. Like if I wanted to, and that's one thing I love about sports sedans. And and like that's no, definitely never really thought about improved production. I'm more about getting in the garage, doing what I can afford, and going out and testing it and see what it does, kind of thing.
Yeah, obviously cars are very different. Your Clio, you've had it for a long time. How many times do you say you'd have to, like, actually that's a bad question. How long until you have to rebuild the engine? Would you wait, do a season, 2 seasons? What sort of
It's actually a funny question that you've asked, Ayrton. The engine in the Clio, believe it or not, is a wrecker's motor. So the original engine that I had in that car, so the engine that car came with, is untouched. My first ever under 2 litre sports sedan race meeting that I took it to, I went out in qualifying, and as I went over the start finish line, it snapped a timing belt,
Ooh.
which grenaded the engine. And instead of pulling the engine apart and whatnot, I went out and I bought another Clio for $1,000, and I pulled the engine out, and that's the engine that's in the Clio today. I have not pulled the head off it, haven't pulled the sump off it. I've literally, topped it up with oil and raced it, and yeah, it's pretty cool in that aspect. It doesn't cost me a lot of money in engine sense, so yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky thing. I remember my Hyundai Gets that we bought for motorcarners and autocrossers, something like $300 to $500. I can't remember. It was something like that. And yeah, we just topped it up with oil, done a few things. I guess needed the coil pack change, so we did that. Spark plugs, just did a service, and yeah, it was ready to go. 2 years.
Yeah, definitely makes it cheap motorsport. Like I went down the road of having a pretty highly strung engine in the car, and it wasn't a lot of fun. It cost me a lot of money, so the Clio is definitely good in that aspect.
And what do you like most about the Clio? Because Renault's a pretty good car brand.
Well, if you asked me this, say 10 years ago, I'd say nothing. I've never dreamed of owning a Renault, racing a Clio. Like I said to you, Ayrton, the car was given to me at the start.
Yeah.
When all this unfolded, I pretty much told my mate, look, I'll get it ready. I'll sell it and, give you the money so you can enjoy your holiday a bit more. I did a test day in it and thought, wow, this car has a lot of potential. And I guess the biggest thing I love about the Clio is it is very low maintenance. Like running standard like driveline. Literally every race meeting, change the oil, do the basics, and that's it. I love that part about it. And it's super reliable, apart from that timing belt on an engine which was unknown. And and it turns heads. Like every single time I've taken that car to an event, it's finished. I could probably almost tell you on the podium every single time I ran it. Like it's an unbelievable car, and it surprises a lot of people, and it's pretty enjoyable. Just watching people's faces, like, wow, this car shouldn't be doing this, but it does it.
Yeah.
Like that. I guess that's my favorite part.
Well, maybe the drivers got a secret talent.
Oh, I don't know about that, mate. Maybe.
Yeah, but to run a good car up the front, some people have a crew behind them. Do you work on the race cars yourself, or do you have a crew or / friends that help you out?
So with the Clio, building the car, I've done everything bar the roll cage in that car. So like all the upgrades and whatnot. Like it was only, I think it was say 3 weeks ago, I had all the strut tops cut out of the car. I was fabricating, like strut tops in that car, and I did all that myself. I don't have a big race budget and whatnot, but when we get to the track, I have my fam, like my dad. He comes. He'll never leave my side at the racetrack. Like he loves it. I've got some really good friends who come and help me, and my partner. So we have a bit of a crew. It's just family and friends, and we just go and have a good time.
Yeah, and that's the way motorsport should be. If you're not there to have fun, shouldn't be there. Well, obviously you can go to the win, but you got to have fun at the same time.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, if you're not having fun, you wouldn't be doing it, would you?
Yeah, and obviously, you did mention that you work on the cars yourself when you're at home, but when you're at the track, it's a totally different scenario. So what kind of preparation goes into a race? Is there physically in yourself? Do you feel like you're strong enough? Do you feel like you're mentally strong? What sort of preparation do you go through?
I think preparing for a race meeting is first of all making sure you have all your ducks in a line. Like making sure, obviously, first of all you entered. You have all your paperwork stuff done. the car is ready to race. Just doing the basic checks, give it a service, you know, like making sure the car is mechanically good as best you can. And then I think mentally is just being in the right headspace and just enjoying the moment. You know, like I've always said to myself, a bad day's racing's better than a good day at work, but I guess it can be pretty bad sometimes, can't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely devastating when you know, you're trying your guts out and something doesn't go your way, and it's a huge challenge, motorsport. But you know, what are some of the challenges that you reckon I can speak? What are some of the challenges that you've faced as a grassroots racer, and how have you overcome them?
I think some of the biggest challenges for myself is just, you know, like, yeah, now it's my turn to learn how to speak. But no, like just preparation, and like I think going racing when you don't have a big fund is actually finding the funds. Like for
Yeah,
myself, yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge that I face. And then yeah, just being sorry. I think funds is probably the biggest thing to face.
mm,
And then like I work in a casual environment as well, so like if I don't work, I don't get paid and all that kind of stuff. And just putting, you know, like racing and life, like that's
yeah,
mentally, it can be a bit tough juggling that, and you know, also relying on people to come and help. Like, you know as well as I do that we can't do this alone. You know, we do rely on a lot of people to help us to get to these events and do, you know, and do what we do. So I think they're probably the biggest challenges. But once all that's in place, we're good to go, mate. Good to send it.
yeah. That's the goal. Obviously, when you have your funds together, racing can get a little bit easier.
Definitely. Yeah, I
Um,
definitely agree on that one.
but it's definitely tricky to get partners and sponsors, and it's something that I am very passionate about. You know, I've built a good partnership with all my sponsors, and yeah, I'm so grateful that they always continue to support me. So it's definitely a tricky thing in motorsport for a lot of people to get the backing that you need, and yeah, it's something that as a racer, when you don't have the funding, you know, you actually can start to find motorsport unenjoyable, and you're like, well, how am I going to do? How am I going to do what I love if I can't afford it? And you know, sometimes your mind starts to race. So you know, I'm very grateful to have these guys back me. And obviously, I've got
Yeah,
my
100%.
background that we talked about.
Yeah, it's pretty cool background,
Yeah,
mate.
it was just easy to make, but yeah, couldn't do it without him. And yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you'd like to
Yeah,
add?
no, I totally agree, mate. Like I've gone through my whole racing venture self-funded. You know, like I've had a couple of good people over the years, you know, like help me out here and there, but predominantly self-funded. And you know, like I started my journey as you know, like a motor mechanic, and I don't know if you know many motor mechanics. So it's definitely it's definitely a job that you do for love and not
Yeah,
for making a lot of money. And yeah, so I've moved on to other things now, which helps me out a lot. But yeah, all my racing self-funded, and I'm pretty lucky to. And you know, I'll tell you now, it's only new news, and by the time this gets released, it'll be out in the air. But I have picked up a couple of sponsors to help me get to the bend, so that's pretty exciting.
yeah. Well,
Mm.
obviously, you know, when you have this backing that you've been able to accumulate now, so you can go to the bend with, I guess, a bit of a fresher mindset. You can go there, try your guts out, and put that clear on the podium again.
That's it, mate. We had a ripper run last weekend, and that's the only reason why we're going to the Bend. We sort of pick and choose the race meetings that we do when we can afford it, and before last weekend, we weren't planning on going to the Bend, but when you come out with a round win, outright, class and outright win, it's be pretty silly to turn that up. And
Yeah.
we're in a place right now where we're doing anything we can to get there. So
Where'd you have your win?
We raced at Winton last weekend in the first round of the under 2 litre sport sedans.
Yeah.
And so we raced in Class B. I'm not sure if you're over at Ayrton, but in under 2 litre sport sedans, you've got 4 classes. So they've got Class A, which is basically space frame sport sedans, like under 2 litre, or like a 4-pan car that has a sequential gearbox in it and whatnot. Class B, which is a 4-pan sports sedan, which is what the Clio is in. Then you've got Class C, which is an under 1600 sports sedan. So, up to 1600. And then they've got Class D, which is a turbo class. We have to run a 36mm intake restrictor, and they run a higher minimum weight. And, but they can race. So you'll see a lot of like mini cup car or mini challenge cars and that running under 2 litre sports sedans. They sort of fit into that category. And so we rocked up to Winton last weekend for the first round with 25 cars. Oh, sorry, and also the Pulsar series also run the 2 litre sports sedans here in Victoria. And so we rolled up last weekend, 25 cars entered, and we finished with 3 race wins and a second outright, and 3 race wins and a second in class as well, which gives us the overall points leader and first in class. So it'd be pretty silly not to turn up the tail and bend.
Yeah, definitely. And when you go into something like that and you come out, obviously you'd be leading the championship if you got 3 wins in a second. So to have big expectations like that is it can be a bit tricky, but you've gone out there, you've shown that the Clio is a quick car, and I'm not just saying it. If you're gonna have a quick car, you need a quick driver too. So you've been able to get in the car and show what the car can do and what yourself can do, and you've come around obviously with a great round win. What is the mindset for the Bend? Is it just to come home with some good points, or is it to go out there and win it?
We always go racing to win, don't we? But no, I think I've never raced at the Bend before. This will be a first time for me. I really don't know what to expect, to be honest with you. It is a fast track. It has a big front straight. Like, they're running the international circuit there. I'll be happy just to go there and grab points, to be honest with you. I know we've got Winton short track and whatnot coming up, which I know the Clio will be pretty hard to beat. Like on the short, nimble, like technical tracks. But who knows, mate? We're definitely going there to win. No doubt about that.
And it will be your first time around the Bend?
Yeah, first time. Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool track, obviously. We were talking about it is tricky because from the looks of it, I don't know, I haven't been there personally, but from the looks of it, it looks if you run off, it's just road and grass. It's not many curbs along the way. So, if you dip a wheel, could potentially find yourself in the dirt or even the gravel.
Yeah, we'll have a crack, that's for sure.
And
this is a big change for me as well, because I've only ever run WSA stuff as well. So I'm currently going through the process of getting a Motorsport Australia license, logbook, and all that sort of stuff. So we've got a bit of preparation before we get there, but so far so good. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, that's definitely good. And suppose it'd be a little bit easier that you've already got a AASA license.
Definitely not.
So no?
Definitely not. No. So yeah, so it's still got to go through the same ropes, still got to do an OLT, still got to, as if I've never raced before.
Yeah, okay, that's it's a bit different. I didn't.
Yeah,
I thought,
I
yeah,
don't. Yeah, I don't really want to get into these arguments online, mate. There's a lot of passionate people
yeah,
out there, and
yeah.
we'll just leave that one. But yeah,
So, do you have a favorite track? And you will be going interstate to race in South Australia, but have you ever been interstate?
I do have a favourite track, and I'm pretty sure everybody that you speak to in Australia will say Bathurst. I have never raced there. I have been there. Awesome. Like that's a dream for me to go there and race one day. I have raced at Wakefield Park before. Like
Yeah.
great track for my little car. Awesome. But yeah, so we'll be heading to Tailem Bend on the 27th. 27th? Yeah, 27, 28th of like this month
Mm.
for round 2 of the Under 2 Litre Sports Event Series.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. But believe it or not, my dream track is Calder Park because when I was go-karting, I used to always drive past it on the way to Melbourne. So I'm in a local town. And to get into Melbourne, I sometimes would drive past Calder Park. And I said to Dad, I always want to race there because that's, big oval. Why wouldn't I want to?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
I see you want to race in the Thunderdome.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I've come to find out that this year we can actually race there, not on the dome, but on the circuit
on
track.
the circuit.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
still think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, Calder Park is a pretty cool track. Like when I first started doing circuit sprints,
Mm.
we used to run a lot at Calder Park because it was a cheap track to hire for the car clubs.
Mm.
So like in the Ford 4 car club where I started, we used to run there 4 times a year, just like with club sprints that they were organising.
Yeah.
And then yeah, which was awesome. And then yeah, and then it turned out that we can't race there for like 15 years, and hopefully this year we get to go back, mate. So that'll be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It's it's a pretty cool thing called a park. I know they probably won't ever redo the tarmac on the oval, but I still think it's pretty cool that they're gonna redo pit buildings there and they're gonna give us freedom to run on the circuit.
Yeah, 100%. Like it'll definitely be pretty iconic to go back there, and um, yeah, I think the oval is pretty like they'll take a lot of work to get that up and going again. Like I
Yeah.
remember being there like say 15 years ago, and just doing sprints there and walking into because I was interested in like what used to happen back in the day there, and I'd go walk across as a kid, walking through the Thunderdome and just walking up the banks of the Thunderdome, and like 15 years ago the asphalt was running down the hill, mate. So like I could not imagine what it looks like right now.
Yeah. Well, it has a pretty weird story called a park because the last time they raced it, the race got stopped in the middle and they packed up and never went out again.
Oh really?
I think it was Oscar. From what I've
Yeah,
heard, they were doing their race at night and then
yeah.
they went past the curfew and then they had to shut off the engines and come in.
Oh yeah, because they had an 11 p.m.
Yeah.
curfew or something out there, didn't they? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That's what happens when you build houses beside a racetrack, eh?
mm, yeah, I'm
That's
not
another
happy about
interesting
that.
topic.
Should let us
Yeah,
race there.
no. Yeah, that's it, mate. No, hopefully we'll get back there later in the year. But
Mm,
it's all booked in so far, but we'll see what happens on that one, I reckon.
yeah. And what advice would you give to someone who was interested in getting into motorsport? Because I started in karting, you started doing motorcarnas and karna crosses, autocrosses. What would you suggest is
Yeah.
the best way to get started?
I'll obviously talk about my experience because I don't know the go-karting the route. There's definitely a lot of different ways to get into motorsport. I think you just got to pick what you can afford, really.
Yeah.
Like motorsport isn't cheap, and Motorcarnas, like which I can personally speak about, is very cheap. You can pick up a paddock bomb for however much you pay for it. I think it may have changed now, but back when I was doing motorcarnas, it was like $20 to enter. And you can go out there and just learn to drive. Like just do a course and sort of learn competition. And then like join a car club, meet like-minded people and whatnot. Like I don't know what karting's like because I've never been down that road, but I think, and then you can sort of spread your wings and go whichever way you want, really. And it's a bit of a networking thing. The more people you meet along the way, you get different advice, and you can sort of choose your own road, really. But I think the biggest thing is, if you want to get into motorsport, is just pick a road that you can afford and enjoy it. Like it's a pretty cool thing.
It is, and I know my parents, they had they could go back a little bit. They said with my racing, they would have got me out of go-karting as soon as possible because I wanted to do it so early. I couldn't race a car at 7 years old, so I would have had to wait till I was at least 12 to do motorcarnas. But they said they would have put me in straight away if they had knew about that pathway. So it's a tricky thing, obviously, because not many people do know about it. But just quickly moving on, what are your future goals in motorsport? And do you have any partners you'd like to thank or sponsors? And are you looking for more?
So my future goals, I'll just talk about this year, really. It wasn't like a goal until last weekend, but my goal this year is to run the under 2 litre Sport Sedan series. We're sitting in a box seat right now to potentially be a contender in, like for a championship. So like that's this year's plans. We're going to run the full series. I do, and I'm super proud to announce this. I've picked up 2 partners that have jumped on board to support me. First of all, Coulson Photography. He's jumped on board and he's going to support me for the rest of the year for the under 2 litre Sport Sedan series. And I do also have Wangaratta Engineering that have jumped on to help me to get to the Bend this weekend. I do have a GoFundMe page currently active to help me get to the Bend. It's a massive mission. We're not quite there yet, but we're pretty close. And I'd appreciate every bit of help I can get to get there, because it would really mean the world to me. I've had a couple of, I've had a mate of mine who's made up some posters and stuff, which I'll be announcing this weekend, which is pretty cool. I'm definitely looking for more help. And anybody who can help out, I definitely can promise you it won't be boring, mate. You'll be locked in for a wild ride this year. That's absolutely blown away by the support that we've got on that page. Like I think we've had 12 donations so far. We're up to like over $1,000. So I'm blown away. I guess the next thing is OnlyFans, mate. So but we're definitely looking for more support. And if anybody's keen to jump on a pretty exciting little package that punches well above its weight, then feel free to contact me.
Yeah, definitely. And I might have to give that OnlyFans thing a try too, because I've got nothing at the minute. Nah. Where can the viewers and listeners find you on social media if they want to keep following your motorsport journey?
So we do have a Facebook page, Damien Hunter Facebook, Damien Hunter Motorsport. I do have an Instagram page, which I haven't really used because I'm more of a Facebook boy. But my partner, she's a rider, and she's like, you need to use Instagram, like you need to. I'm like, all right. So I've started to use Instagram a bit more. Like I've had that page for a while, and that's Damien _Hunter_Hunter. on Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much it at this stage. They're the two avenues that I use. So, and I have had my partner offer to take over the social media stuff. So hopefully there's a bit more juicy content on there, race car
Yeah.
related. I mean.
Yeah, so I'll definitely tag your social media pages down below. So if you guys are watching, you can just scroll down to the description, click on it, and it should bring you to his page. But no, I really appreciate you coming to speak to me tonight, Damien. It's been great to find out more about your racing and what it's like, to see someone like yourself follow your passion. I wish you the best for the rest of the year and hope you get some good results coming off Winton. You're the one to beat. But remember, everyone, if you're racing this weekend, drive fast and take chances safely, of course.
Thanks, Edson. Appreciate it, mate. You're a
All
legend.
good.